Imagine this. You walk into a coffee shop. It's nearly empty. There are 20 tables free. You pick one, plug in your laptop, and start working. You're in your flow. Then you hear footsteps. They stop right behind you. Then the chair scrapes. Someone has chosen the table immediately next to yours. Not the one across the room, not the one by the window. Yours. You immediately feel it. Your shoulders tense, your focus breaks. You think, why on earth would they do that? And maybe you start to wonder if you're the problem, if you're being too sensitive, or if your social anxiety is acting up. Well, I have good news. You aren't being dramatic. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Today, we're unpacking the psychology of personal space, why the empty room paradox drives us crazy, and the specific brain mechanism that turns a stranger into a threat.
To understand why that feels like such a violation, we need to talk about something called proxemics. Back in the 1960s, an anthropologist named Edward T. Hall coined the term. He'd spent years studying how people use space, and he mapped it into 4 zones: intimate for family and partners, personal for friends, social for acquaintances, public for everyone else. When that stranger sits down next to you, they're not stepping from public into social. They're jumping straight into personal. No warning, no invitation.
And your body notices. Hall's framework explains why that feels wrong. Later researchers measured what it actually does to you physically. In a 1965 study, people's skin conductance, basically a measure of how on edge you are, spiked the second a stranger moved in close, especially face-to-face. Heart rate does something similar. This isn't just in your head. Your heart rate and skin response are reacting to it, whether you want them to or not. Here's why your brain reacts this strongly. For most of human history, a stranger closing the distance on you usually meant danger, not a chat, a threat. So your brain built a shortcut, a way to catch that kind of thing fast, before you even had time to think about it. That shortcut lives in the amygdala. There's a real case that shows just how much work it's doing. In 2009, Caltech researchers studied a woman known as patient SM. Rare condition, both amygdalae completely damaged, and she had no sense of personal space at all. In the study, she stood comfortably about a foot from a total stranger, well inside what Hall calls the intimate zone. Healthy participants in the same study kept almost double that distance. On brain scans, their amygdala lit up the moment someone stood close. Hers never did.
That's what's happening when the stranger sits down next to you. Your amygdala doesn't know they just want a coffee. It only knows something has entered the space where a threat would be, and it reacts before your rational brain gets a say. In an empty room, there's no crowd, no noise, nothing else competing for that reaction, so it reacts more strongly. There's a deeper concept at play too, called expectancy violations theory. It comes from communication researcher Judy Burgoon. The idea is simple. We move through the world based on what we expect to happen. On a crowded bus, you expect to get shoved up against a stranger. Your brain is ready for it. The space violation is expected, so it barely registers. An empty room is different. You've already built an expectation of space. Plenty of chairs, so the unspoken rule is spread out. When someone skips every other option to sit right next to you, that expectation gets broken. And that's what makes it feel personal. It reads as a choice, and your brain wants to know why. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they're trying to intimidate you. Maybe they're just completely oblivious. Working through that, guessing it's someone else's intent, is exactly what pulls your focus apart.
Here's what actually helps. First, stop blaming your anxiety. This is a biological response to a broken social expectation, not you being overly sensitive. It isn't social anxiety, it's human biology. Second, notice the cognitive load. Half the stress isn't the closeness itself, it's you trying to solve the puzzle of why they picked that seat. Once you land on they're probably just oblivious, the stress usually drops. And finally,
Give yourself permission to move. If your brain is treating this as a problem, just solve it. Get up. Your mental energy is limited. Don't spend it fighting an instinct that's kept humans alive for thousands of years. A lot of what stresses you out day to day is just an old survival system reacting to a world it was never built for. And some of us have the opposite problem too. The boundaries stay up even when we actually want someone close. That's what I'm covering in the next video. Why some of us struggle to let anyone into our personal space at all, even when we want them there. If this changed how you think about personal space, subscribe so you don't miss it. And let me know in the comments, what's the weirdest thing a stranger has done that completely shattered your focus? I'll see you there.